Committee Room 29, Sound. 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 Committee Room 29, Sound.
She confirmed live.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good morning, members. Máidín Moya agus to Fáilte Rove and Lig. You're all very welcome to the 86th meeting of the Committee for Communities. Can I remind anyone in the public gallery that mobile phones must be turned off, mobile tablet devices can be used through a Wi-Fi connection, and all devices should be muted. Password details are available in the gallery for anyone wanting to connect to the Assembly's Wi-Fi network. No recordings or photographs may be taken. Can I remind members about the protocol regarding the use of electronic devices? Please switch all mobile devices to airplane mode and activate Wi-Fi connection. Please also use tablet devices discreetly in a way which does not interfere with proceedings, and be aware of the cameras and sensitivity of microphones throughout the course of the meeting. And for members joining via Zoom, can I ask you to be mindful of whether the camera on your device is able to pick up on any other people or background images. Okay, members, thank you. And moving on to declaration of interest, I'd remind members of your responsibility to declare any interest in any of the items under discussion today. Does any member have any interest they wish to declare in particular in relation to any of today's agenda items? No? Well, yeah, Sian?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just want to
declare that I am in receipt of an Ilgos pension, and also that I have a close family members who are involved in the Comhaltas Ceoltóirí Éireann branch. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa?
I'm getting a pension as well too, Nulgus, and again, a member of Comhaltas.
Thank you. And I also am a very proud founding member of the Brantry Comhaltas and a member of Comhaltas more widely. So to declare that. Members otherwise content? Okay. Members, thank you. Members, you will be aware that the debate on the committee's report on local councils and the draft anti-poverty strategy took place in plenary on Tuesday this week. I think this is a very constructive piece of work, and I want to thank all of the members for taking part in the debate on the committee motion, and also to note that I think that was a very positive debate around this issue, and hopefully adds significantly to this work. I also want to thank the team here who pulled together that original session and the report from it. I think it was a significant piece of work by the committee team as well, so I want to just acknowledge and thank them for that. I am concerned in some of the commentary that's being made around this that there's a continued reference to the committee's engagement and a recess and after the summer. Committee have set out their position very clearly that we believe the Minister should be bringing this back urgently to the Executive without delay. Certainly we will play our part to ensure that there's no a delay in our, but I think I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be brought back ahead of the summer recess. I don't think that's irrelevant. And certainly in relation to the committee's engagement and my engagement with it, we have done that meeting with the Minister. We have passed on both that local government report and the committee's report into the anti-poverty strategy, our own consultation response. So those are with the department, and there's really nothing further to add in that sense. So I just think we need potentially to look at releasing a statement emphasising our desire to see this coming forward urgently. And I just wonder if members would be content maybe we ask the clerk to draft a potential press release to look at next week to ensure that we keep some momentum going in the process. Members content? Yeah, thank you. Members, you'll also be aware we had the informal meeting with the department on Tuesday this week who demonstrated the Universal Credit Journal. I found that very useful and informative session, and I'm sure members who were in attendance would agree. And thank the department for facilitating that session. Also to inform members, the CAMS office is holding a sign language drop-in event on Tuesday, 2nd of June in room 135. The event will start at 12 p.m. and is aimed at marking the passage of the sign language bill through the Assembly. It will explore deaf culture, and members of the deaf community will be in attendance to share their perspectives on the bill. It will also include an interactive opportunity to learn some basic sign language and provide advice on how to work with an interpreter. If any members wishes to attend, please contact the committee team for further information. I do also really welcome that session in the sense of maintaining that momentum around the significant strides forward for the deaf community in relation to this bill, which I think we're all very, very proud of, and it's good to see work continuing and members of that community continuing to be in this building and shaping policy and information for members, all members, ongoing. I also just do want to flag up to members our new boards here. This is our report that we did with the arts sector, back the round table report. So I think it's brilliant to see that visualisation of the arts and culture and all of those things that this committee are involved in, inclusivity, diversity, arts and culture. So it's great to see that work transferring through into another medium as well. And I'm delighted to see that this morning. So final item, members, then is in chairs, just to remind you that our meeting next week on the 4th of July will take place in the Cardinal Tomás Ó Fí Library and Archive in Armagh. Lovely venue, members. I've been in it, and I have to say it's really, really interesting. Really interesting that they have some very, very significant archival material, and I think they will be trying to facilitate members to see some of that, but it's also a really a nice venue for it, so I'd welcome members attending. The committee team will send further information. Did I say 4th
July?
Oh, sorry, I should have said the 4th of June. 4th of June, members. Sorry, my apologies. The committee team will send further information, including logistics in due course, However, I would like to inform members there won't be a facility for remote links at that meeting, given it's out in that venue.
No.
So that's okay. Thank you, members.
Yes. In from here.
Just next at 2 o'clock, so I don't know whether I'll be fit to.
I will. Funny, I have PAC at 2, so I'll be travelling as well back up to here. So
I'll race you.
we could car share if you could make it my length. We could car share, but it's a problem for me that as well. So we'll have to. But I think it's really we've covered some really nice areas in terms of committee outreach. We've been in a community setting. We've been in a women's centre. We're doing this museum and library. We are lining up another library one. So I think it's good to get out across those kind of facets of the brief in a very positive way. So thank you. Agenda item 4 then, members, is draft minutes. We have 2 sets of draft minutes this week, given that we had the concurrent meeting with ERA committee on the 21st of May. So the concurrent meeting with ERA are on page 7. Do members have any edits or amendments to the draft minutes for the concurrent session? Members content that I sign on behalf of the committee? Yep, thank you. And then the second set of draft minutes is from our committee meeting on the 21st of May, which immediately followed that concurrent. Those are at page 12 of your pack. Do members have any edits or amendments to the draft committee meeting minutes they wish to suggest?
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
The concurrent minutes, sorry, and it was just declarations of interest. I should have, on reflection, declared an interest in that. My wife is a regeneration officer for Derry City and Strabane District Council, and they'll be delivering that scheme.
What officer? Pardon?
A regeneration.
Right. Thank you.
Yep. Are members content with that amendment made? The members content to agree the meeting then as drafted otherwise? Yeah. Members content for me to sign. Thank you. So members, just I overlooked agenda item 2 there. Apologies. It is apologies, so I'm asking if there's any apologies for today's meeting.
Kelly Armstrong and Andy Allen.
Kelly and Andy, and otherwise we're everybody else here. Thank you, clerk. Yeah.
Could we maybe send a wee note to Kelly Armstrong? I understand she's not too well at the minute, just to wish her all the best.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. Members agreed, I'm sure.
recovery.
Yeah, good suggestion, Pam. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, members. Moving on then to agenda item 5. Yeah. So we're moving on to our first briefing session this morning. So we're now taking a briefing from Fleadh Cheoil and hÉireann 2026, and this is an oral briefing from Comhaltas Ceoltóirí Éireann. Members, the briefing paper for this agenda item can be found starting at page 19 of your meeting pack, and we now welcome the following members to our meeting. So we're joined by Brenton McAleer from Comhaltas, Grainne Scullion, Comhaltas, Damien Martin, who is Belfast City Council, and Leslie Ann O'Donnell from Belfast City Council. So, ta fáilte roimh a lig, fáilte mór agaibh, you're all very, very welcome here today. And we're very much looking forward to the session. Brenton, I think it's maybe yourself that's going to lead off with some remarks, and then we'll get to members' questions.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you. Chair, Deputy Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today on behalf of Comhaltas Ceoltóirí Éireann and Fleadh Cheoil hÉireann delivery team to outline the significance of hosting Fleadh Cheoil hÉireann in Belfast in 2026 and 2027. Firstly, I know, Colin, you have introduced them, but I will reintroduce the team here with me today. On my right, I have Grainne Scullion, from Competitions Officer from Comhaltas Ceoltóirí Éireann. On my left, Damien Martin, Strategic Director of Place and Economy with Belfast City Council, and Leslie Ann O'Donnell, Senior Manager with Culture, Tourism and Events, Belfast City Council. And myself, I'm Brendan McAleer, Príomh-Oireachtaire with Comhaltas Ceoltóirí Éireann. So, the Fleadh is the world's largest celebration of Irish traditional music, song, dance and language. It is a major international cultural event that attracts up to 800,000 visitors annually and brings together performers, learners, families, volunteers, cultural organisations and visitors from across these islands and from around the world. For Belfast and wider Northern Ireland, the Fleadh represents much more than a week-long festival. it is a unique opportunity to deliver substantial economic return, broaden access to the arts, strengthen community participation, and create a lasting cultural legacy that will endure long after the Fleadh concludes. The projected economic impact of the 2026 Fleadh alone is estimated to exceed 60 million through tourism, visitor spending and wider economic activity. However, while the economic case is compelling, the social and community impact is equally important. The Fleadh is designed as an accessible and inclusive event. A significant proportion of the programming is provided free of charge, with performances, workshops, classes and cultural activities taking place across Belfast from morning until late evening. Through our citywide approach, activity will extend beyond the city centre into communities across north, south, east and west of the city, ensuring that participation is not limited by geography or economic circumstances. We have also placed community engagement at the heart of our planning, through initiatives such as the Bank of Ideas and open calls for participation. Local residents, artists, cultural organisations and community groups are helping shape the programme themselves. More than 200 applications have already been received for fringe programming, demonstrating appetite that exists across Belfast's diverse communities to be part of this landmark event. Members will also be aware of the committee's interest in inclusion, wellbeing and community development. These are areas where the Fleadh can make a meaningful contribution. The event creates shared civic spaces where people from different backgrounds can come together through culture. It provides opportunities for volunteering, skills development and social connection, with approximately 1,500 volunteers expected to contribute across a range of goals. For young people, the benefits are particularly significant. Through scoleggia, competitions, performances and volunteer leadership opportunities, the Fleadh supports artistic development, confidence building and active participation in cultural life. Previous events have welcomed around 800 young people to the Scoleggia Summer School and more than 4,500 competitors across over 230 competitions. The committee will also be interested in the long-term legacy of the event. Belfast's hosting of the Fleadh in both 2026 and 2027 provides a rare opportunity to maximise impact over 2 consecutive years. This continuity allows us to build stronger community networks, increase participation in arts and culture, and reinforce Belfast's position as a UNESCO City of Music, strengthening the city's reputation as a destination capable of hosting major international cultural events. Importantly, delivery of the Fleadh is being underpinned by a strong partnership approach. Comhaltas, through our head office team and local Ards Comhaltas branch, are working closely with Belfast City Council, statutory agencies, cultural organisations, community groups and businesses to deliver the Fleadh. All this is coordinated through comprehensive event management structures which are already in place, including multi-agency planning for safety, transport, accessibility and operational delivery. The significance of the Fleadh has been recognised nationally and internationally. Recent visits and endorsements from King Charles and Queen Camilla, as well as President Catherine Connolly, reflect the scale and importance of bringing this event to Belfast and further highlights the opportunity that exists to showcase Belfast and wider Northern Ireland on a global stage. Chair and members, Comhaltas believes that Fleadh Cheoil in 2026 and 2027 will deliver strong return on public investment through economic growth, tourism, cultural participation, community engagement and social wellbeing. It is an event that aligns closely with many of the objectives of the Department of Communities and offers benefits that will be felt across Belfast and throughout the whole province. We look forward to continuing our partnership with government, local authorities and communities to ensure the successful delivery of the Fleadh and to maximise its legacy for future generations. Thank you, and we welcome any questions the committee may have. Gráinne and myself will answer any wider Comhaltas questions, while Leslie Ann and Damien will answer any operational questions, and anything we don't know we will of course come back to the committee on. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And I have to say, I'm really delighted to see it coming. I've attended Fleadh my lifetime right across the island and participate in music and all of that. So I just can't wait to see it. I think Belfast's a brilliant spot for it. And then to get it the second year, I think is like more than doubles the impact in some senses. It just adds another layer of richness and potential to it all, I have to say. I did note King Charles's visit to it. I have to say I've seen him playing, I think it was a bit of Boron on the first day, maybe playing something the second day. I don't know if he should be entering any of the competitions, but he certainly could take part in some of them late night sessions that you talked about there. He could do that. So I'm also interested in, and I think you've set it out really very clearly in terms of how much more there is to this than just a Fleadh and just a weekend's events or whatever. And you'd mentioned that there was outreach done to community groups and that, and over 200 applications received. Could you give me a flavour of the kind of diversity of applications that are contained within that process?
Yes,
Yeah.
happy to answer that one. We have, as Belfast City Council, the hosting of the Fleadh has been underpinned with a lot of our kind of cultural unit development work and ongoing work and investment through the City Imagining, our 10-year cultural strategy. And that's very much about co-design, participation, community cohesion, and finding access points for all communities and our cultural sector to get involved, particularly whenever we're hosting significant major events, and that has been no different in our approach to the Fleadh. We have done a significant level of engagement right out north, south, east and west across the city and the city centre, looking at community groups, cultural organisations, businesses, and those who will no doubt be impacted by some of the infrastructural requirements of the Fleadh. But what that has led to is this diverse programme of fringe activity that is happening both in the city centre and citywide. We have opened up venues and spaces that are not being used for the core elements of the programme delivery and matched those with community groups and arts organisations to encourage more activity happening within the city centre footprint, and also then into the communities and neighbourhoods. We have on average between 30 and 50 events happening right across the city in each of those areas. So 30 to 50 events north, south, east and west, which builds up this programme of over 200 events happening both the weekends before, after and the week during the Fleadh. We opened that up through an expression of interest and requested people to submit proposals, ideas and what they would like to bring forward on the basis of our underlying principles, which are celebrating Belfast, celebrating together. So really much that piece about finding opportunities to participate and engage. We then bolstered that with our Bank of Ideas programme, which is a participatory budgeting programme that we have delivered for the last 3 years now, and it's been an incredible success. So we have another 39 activities that are coming through that, which are real kind of grassroots community programming. The full programme will be launched next week and available online, but we are excited to get some of those highlights out, and it's everything from all communities, new communities and venues, and a diverse mix that we hopefully everybody will find a place for themselves in it.
And are you holding your light under a bushel for a big reveal, or can you give us a kind of even an example of any of the diversity without showing all of your hand?
Yeah, well, we've been working really closely with the Belfast Bands Forum, so we have a showcase event that's happening on the Slipways on the Thursday evening during the Fleadh week. So that is one big kind of spectacle piece that is looking at kind of cross-community cohesion as well as that showcase piece. We have ceilidhs in care homes, ceilidhs in libraries. We have poetry events. We have some circus events. So we have that full kind of range of diversity for the audience that we know that is coming. So trying to make it appeal to those visitors so that they're not only coming for the week of the Fleadh, but they're getting a flavour of what Belfast is like when we put our best foot forward and trying to encourage repeat visits.
Very good. Okay, well listen, I have plenty more questions, but I see we have a lot of interest, so I'm going to go on straight to members, and some of my questions may be picked up and maybe we'll get a chance or whatever, but I do see we're going to have to keep moving it on fairly swiftly. So I'm coming first of all to our Deputy Chair, Cathy Mason. Go ahead, Cathy, please.
Gordon Levitt, Colm, and to the panel as well, thank you so much. It's just class to be talking about something so positive for a change as well. And Brenton, I think you outlined it so brilliantly there. just how incredible this is going to be, not just for Belfast, but for the whole area. I know personally the incredible work of the local Comhaltas and the local branches in the area. Newcastle branch is my closest, and Grania, I know that you have involvement in that, and it's just an incredible year for the whole County Down kind of area, with Lakeal hosting the county Fleadh in Downpatrick, Warrenpoint then obviously the provincials, and then Ards of course here with the All Irelands. And like some of the figures that you talked about, they're just incredible. But Brent, you mentioned something there that struck me, was around the amount of volunteers that are involved in it. And I know there's huge pride and huge excitement that is building around this. Can you give us a sense just how important the volunteers and those local branches and that are going to be in not just the planning but the execution of this as well?
Yeah, well, first of all, I suppose to point out that Comhaltas is a volunteer-led organisation. Yes, I am a staff member, but we are thin on the ground, and we couldn't do what we do without volunteers. The amount of hours that go in by our volunteers into delivering, at, as you say, Kathy, at local branch level, for a county Fleadh, for provincial Fleadh, or even just for the monthly session that may take place in a remote venue out. It's amazing. But when you come to Fleadh Cheoil and hÉireann, it is a huge ask, but it is really how the community can buy into the Fleadh and be part of that sort of building of civic pride that comes from showcasing their area to the world, because it really, the eyes of the culture world will be on Belfast during that week. People will be coming in from everywhere. We have been working very closely with Volunteer Now, and I suppose I would have known Denise and the people in Volunteer Now for years, and we knew coming to Belfast that Volunteer Now were going to be a huge part of it. I think at this stage I can say they have well exceeded the 1,500 expressions of interest for volunteers, and Grania, she has been part of the training and has said to me that they have their training put in place. And maybe Grania, if you want to pick up a wee bit about that.
I've been working very closely now with Volunteer Now, and I've been at all the recruitment events that they've had, where they take people who've had an expression of interest and they talk them through the different roles to make sure they're in the correct role for them, and that the volunteers get as much out of it as they're given into the event as well. So what has really struck me now with working with Volunteer Now is the diversity in the volunteers, and that is in all aspects. So we have all ages, we have a good mix of gender, we have different. It's great to see with lots of newcomers are coming in to volunteer because they want to be part of the event, with people from all over coming in, people who speak all different languages, and some of them are going to be really utilised well to make sure that, I know that we've got cruise ships and stuff coming in during the week of the Fleadh, so we need to have people who can speak different languages. But the volunteer, sort of the diversity of the volunteers really, I think, reflects the diversity of the city and the diversity of this place, which is absolutely brilliant to see. And the Volunteer Now, the training that they're working on, their whole thing is that volunteers need to be upskilled and need to be sort of ensure that they get a good experience and that they feel that they're not kind of floundering anywhere, and that they can answer all the questions, and that they'll come back and volunteer in 2027 as well. So they're working on a great programme to train the volunteers and to support the volunteers through it. So it's a fantastic opportunity for people.
And Chair, can I just add, I happened to be in a local hotel at the weekend, and actually just talking to somebody at the bar, and they mentioned 2 of their family members had volunteered. Yeah. So it just shows you, how widespread that the words go out there, and the desire and interest.
The other, I suppose there's 2 other elements of the volunteer piece, which of course they are there to support the event and be that welcome ambassador to our visitors. But what it means is we have a team who are intricately linked into our command and control structures for the event as well, because often the volunteers are your eyes and ears on the ground. So having that infrastructure where they're so critical to the safe delivery of the event as well, and taking recognition of that and just the pride in the role that they play. But what it also means for Belfast as a legacy is that we will have a bank of almost 2,000 event-trained volunteers that can be able to tap into for our annual kind of calendar of festivals and events as well. And we're working very closely with Volunteer Now to realise that legacy as well beyond the Fleadh.
That's fantastic. And clearly, having the support of the volunteers is going to mean this can happen. But obviously, the working relationship with Belfast City Council has been to the fore of this as well. How important has that relationship been? And also then, in terms of the Department of Communities, has there been the sort of same impact and the same support following up from the department as well?
Well, I'll speak to Belfast City Council first, and I wrote a date down when I sat down there, because it just every so often it springs to mind that the first meeting I had in relation to the Fleadh coming to Belfast with the people from Belfast City Council was in September 2014, just after we had came out of the 2013 Fleadh up in Derry and the success that had been, and it has been ongoing since. I will say from a Comhaltas perspective, we could not deliver this without the council's support, because it is the Fleadh these days is a huge animal, and trying to deliver the infrastructure requirements for that, when you're talking in and around the road closures, when you're talking in and around making public spaces available, when you're talking about engaging people across a town, a county, a city, you need that support within. Like this time last year, we were sitting in Wexford, and as a proud Tyrone man, I wouldn't have had a whole lot of connections in Wexford. So we can't do it without the support of the local councils, and I have to pay tribute to John Walsh and the whole team, and Damien and Leslie Ann here, who have been, I think possibly, they may not say it, but they seem to be working full time on the Fleadh at this stage. I think myself and Leslie Ann have said we speak to each other more often than we speak to our partners. So it's got to that stage. And I think really in relation to the department, I might hand over to yourselves, because you have been having that conversation.
So, I mean, in terms of, I suppose, our overall ask of government has been a collective ask, and a significant ask, and a core part of that was in relation to funding, because clearly there's a significant cost in order to do these things. In terms of economic return, it shows the absolute benefit. So we've had significant support from the executive. We have our letter of offer on behalf of them through Tourism Northern Ireland for our funding, but also then there's a huge level of operational engagement with all the departments, including the Department of Communities. Obviously Leslie Ann and her team on the cultural work are working and engaging all the time, but also just so we understand, even from the point of view of making the city look at its best. So we have a programme of work including DFC officials and DFI officials and Belfast City Council, just looking at all the things we can do to make the city look at its best, and short-term actions and all that we can do. So, it really, we do rely on our government partners for a lot of support to make these things happen, and they're involved and represented in the panoply of working groups that we have trying to drive forward. But I don't know if you want to
I'm actually going to have to move on. Just time's going to have to move on. I'm coming then, so we have the following order with Sean, Melissa, Pam, Morris and Mark. Go ahead, Sean, please.
Thank you so much. So excited for this summer, and we've just come out of the County Antrim Fleadh at the weekend. So I did declare my interest. I have a small boy who's heading to Warren Point and is very much looking forward and hoping that he'll be getting through the Ulsters. So thank you all so much for all the work that you've done. The first thing I wanted to point out was just that engagement with the Belfast Bands Forum, I think has been exceptional, and I just want to pay tribute to both Comhaltas and Belfast City Council for that engagement. I think there's something very powerful when you see all branches of traditional music being used to unite communities, and that's something I am exceptionally passionate about. So I wanted to put on record, and I'm just wondering, does that feed into any of the legacy that has been spoken about? Will that be something, that relationship that can continue on after the Fleadh this year and next?
Yes, that's probably one for me. Thank you for that, Shan. It has been, you know, a piece of work that we've been invested in for a period of time, and have worked closely with the Bands Forum in particular integration into St Patrick's Day programming and other pieces as well. So, like, you talk about legacy and think about it as being after, but legacy is right the way through, and it is by design at that kind of integration point, and how we feed that through in our wider kind of ongoing work as a unit. There is, you know, when we strip everything back, the legacy for Comhaltas, for the Bands Forum, for any of those cultural groups, particularly where there's musical instruments, the challenges are the same. It's about access to tuition, access to musical instruments, growth of membership, participation, particularly in the younger audiences, and creating those pathways through. So there's a number of programmes of work in design at the minute as to how we continue to support all of the organisations on those bases and those principles.
And if I can come in on that, Sean, if the 2013 experience is anything to go by, I can say yesterday morning I had an email from Brian Doherty from the Northwest Bands for the Northwest Cultural Partnership, and we're working on another project, and that relationship has been ongoing. And to echo what Leslie Ann said, if I go into a Comhaltas branch or I go into a band hall, the conversation is engaging young people, getting money for instruments, getting money for tuition, and the event coming up. And those conversations go on across the divide there, and making sure that we will, I have no doubt we'll still be working with Morris and Darren and the guys from the Bands Forum as we go forward, and maybe a bit of an exclusive, shall we say, that Morris Brown from the Bands Forum will be one of our awardees on the Tuesday night at the Bardic Awards. Yes.
Okay.
Come along.
You heard it here first.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Did we like exclusives?
Fantastic.
All right. Yep.
Can I just ask then about short-term lets has been an issue that's been brought up, and obviously housing sits within our portfolio here in communities, and I suppose this is probably for Belfast City Council, but what engagement has been had just around some of those concerns around short-term lets and the, I suppose, the fragility of our housing situation here?
Yeah, I suppose it's an ongoing piece, as you've kind of alluded to, Shannon. It's something we're very mindful of within our tourism unit within Belfast City Council as well. We've been working closely with Tourism NI in particular, who obviously hold the kind of the certification and the legislation piece over that, in terms of if there are short-term lets coming onto the market for events, that they're managed and they're accredited in a way that's appropriate. We have also been communicating strongly through Tourism NI the fair pricing policies as well, to try and see if we can help those messages land. But it is an ongoing piece of work that we're looking at across the board in wider tourism piece, on the ongoing piece of short-term lets, not purely just for event purposes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. Melissa Lanneray, let a cast hand. Go ahead, please.
Reverend Fleadh Cheoil and Sean, you are heartily welcome here today, and I'm looking forward to the Fleadh as well. And having been involved in Fleadh Cheoil a number of years back in Castleberg, I'm very, very aware of the great work that the likes of Aaron Derrick had carried out at that time in preparation for the Fleadh. And some people were very anxious just how it would impact on the local community and the likes of it. But because of the groundwork that had been done, and including the Bands Forum and that from Derry and that as well too, whilst they approached it initially, we'll say members of the community, with some trepidation, by the Sunday night, the whole community, and I mean the whole community, were there, totally involved in what it was that was happening. It was a great success, and that was only about like sort of the local county Fleadh, and I know when it comes to All Ireland that will be the same as that again too. And I really look forward to that aspect of it. And I've been to many Fleadh, but in particular when it's happening here now in the north of Ireland, we used to hear one of the criticisms that used to be that the Northerners always went down south to the All Ireland Fleadh and the likes of it, but they seem to be reluctant to come north. Have you addressed that question?
Yeah, I would say 2013 was a big moment for us, and I remember that Tyrone Fleadh well in Castleberg, by the way. It was a great one. But yes, we have 2013 was a huge moment for us and being able to bring people, because it is, and I keep saying this to the tourism bodies, that this will be the first time for a huge amount of people travelling from the south into Belfast. It'll be their first time to visit Belfast, and trying to make sure we can show them a good experience. Now there's I have to say, I don't know if some of the adverts in the what they call the Marcoms are now starting to go live to bring people, to attract people to it, and it is brilliant. This is the city itself has changed so much over the years. I think people now are looking forward to it, and we hope, anyway, certainly from our point of view, and I'm sure from the City Council point of view, that the Fleadh can be that driver to bring people here to Belfast. But I'll say, not just from, as I keep calling, deepest darkest Munster. Some of our reps were over at the All Britain Fleadh there recently, and the conversation was around, can we book 200 rooms for their musicians coming from Britain, coming from Scotland and that, coming over. So people are going to come from all over the world. Somebody was telling us earlier about an uncle that was coming in from Sweden that's coming to it, the amount of people that are talking about coming in from America for it. I think the Fleadh can be that vehicle, that it can drive that tourism, and the conversations around that seem to have fallen away, so it's brilliant that the music can bring everybody together. What's the line? Come for the music, stay for the crack. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure too that when they do come, that they'll find in Belfast as heartily welcome as what they found whenever they came to Derry, because Belfast again too is a very welcoming city, especially to people who don't live, we'll say, in the north or coming from any other country in that as well too. So I'm looking forward to all of that, and I don't have to book rooms. I'll be for staying with my daughter and during that time. So again, as I say, I wish you all the very, very best in terms of the Fleadh this year.
Thank you, Melissa. Pam, yeah, Pam.
Thank you, Chair. You're all very welcome. Thank you for coming to committee today. Lovely sunny weather and a lovely sunny subject. Clearly it's a huge cultural event to take place. Is it? I just want to ask you first. Is it unusual? Is this the first time that it will be 2 years back to back, or has that happened before? Has it?
No, the norm would be 2 years.
The norm is.
The norm would be 2 years, and there have been some places have had done for 3, in the likes of Cavan and Tullamore, and that they have done 3 years in a row.
I suppose that's not advantageous in terms of. Clearly, there's a lot of promotional work has to take place, and I know even. My own colleague, the Lord Mayor of Belfast, Tracy Kelly, has been heavily involved in promotion of the Fleadh. And I suppose that's the knock-on impact then that will hopefully carry forward to the following year as well. I suppose I just want to ask you about the importance of that. I mean, it was great to see the footage on the TV, I suppose, too, of the King Charles and Queen Camilla, and to see the Belfast Bands Forum included and all of that, I think was really, really good for me. From a union's perspective, it was really, really nice to see. Very inclusive, very welcome. And I suppose, what are the greatest challenges, I suppose, logistically facing? Clearly, I mean, that the hotels are booked out and you're taking over parks and everything as campsites, so maybe you want to talk to us a bit more about that. And I also welcome actually some of the commentary around musical instruments, because on this committee we hear a lot of criticism about the scheme to actually support young people and to ensure that provision is made to musical instruments. As somebody who had a very musical grandmother who was a musical teacher, but hopeless anything remotely musical apart from singing badly in the shower, I think it's wonderful to see across the communities, to see that investment in music and in culture from my point of view. But so I just wanted to know what your take was on the importance of that investment in our young people.
Well, first of all, I will pay compliments to Lord Mayor Tracy Kelly, and I was, I suppose, not in tune with it, that realised that this was her last week, I think, coming up, and I have to say the work she's done, and hopefully, I was talking to somebody recently who said that when she came down to the Fleadh in Wexford, that it was one of her highlights, because the welcome she got was brilliant, and she was brilliant down there, you know, and just bringing that up. But in relation to the bands forum and to young people, and I said a long time ago that I want the Fleadh coming to Belfast to be the tide that lifts all boats, I wanted really to put traditions and culture, music essentially, into the fore and to show how it can be a positive driver for change here. We want to create space for everybody. It's like the Fleadh coming to Castleberg or coming up to Warren Point. You want a parent or a child or somebody there to see an instrument, see somebody playing or singing at a session or something and go, I want to do that. And for either the child or the parent, or for the parent then to be able to go, I'm going to invest in you to get you to that space. It is that's the dream coming out of Belfast, that we have moved music and culture into the centre of a conversation where it can be seen as a positive, where it can be seen that everybody can come together, that the bands forum and the arts branch can stand on a bridge and play the music for the king and queen coming past, and that's how we represent ourselves. That's how, when the President Connolly comes up, that's how we represent ourselves. We showcase the best of what we are, and that's the wish as we come out of here. And that's the wish when we leave Wexford, Mullingar, Ennis. Now, it seems to me everybody in Ennis plays music, and as somebody who has zero talent in that space, it is. I look envious, but that's where we're at. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Well, only in terms, you got the interesting bit. I'll say one thing around the music and culture bit, which is just from a Belfast City Council point of view, it's just hugely important to us. I mean, it's a core part of our strategy for the city, that it's a place you want to come, and we hear it from the tourists all the time, and we are interested, let's be honest, in the economic benefits and people coming back, but part of that is the music and the culture and the dance, and what a great place to come to. In terms of the wider, I'll not go into all, but yes, you're right, major logistic operation in terms of planning for all the traffic and the park and rides, and all that goes into that, in terms of the accommodation, both in terms of keeping engaged, but also, a really important part where our businesses working really hard, for example, our economic development team and our tourism team, trying to maximise the benefit of our business, but also recognising the challenges, just, the busyness, getting staff, as you all know, in hospitality, not a bit easy. How can we help them? How do they plan? How do they make sure they have quick value for money offerings? You have lots of families, they're running between competitions and events and all of that. So a lot of work going into that side of it as well, just to try and make sure they get, it's not easy times. Good weather makes it feel better, but not easy times. How do they maximise the benefit of it? So all of that stuff going on behind the scenes with a big team of people, and again, needing the support of lots of other organisations, police, ambulance service, fire service, all of that going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. Wish you well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Morris.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks very much for your presentation, which has been very positive. But not only positive, but beat. So if you're going to sell yourself, you've succeeded. I would like to pick up on a point that Cathy raised there, and that's the volunteers. You can't put a value, or you can't quantify the value of volunteer. They're priceless. When I work with volunteers on a weekly basis through my connections in football, and it's amazing what a volunteer can do. So you've done well if you've got 2,000 in your books. You've maybe lend me some. You talk about accommodation. I just throw in a wee caveat that we've got plenty of accommodation on the North Coast, and we've got good transport from Coleraine to Belfast, both bus and rail. So don't be a bit shy throwing them down our way. The one point that I wanted to ask about was the 60 million economic return that you mentioned there. That's good. So how would you quantify that this year for next year? And I'm asking in the sense that how can you make sure that most of that £60 million stays in Belfast and doesn't go to large-scale hospitality units, to try and reinvest that amazing amount of money back into the local community?
Just to take, and Leslie and Mike want to come in terms of, I suppose, to pick up on your first point, obviously, we're Belfast City Council. Of course, we want people to come and stay in Belfast, but we also know international visitors want to go other places, and we're delighted. And part of tourism and working with Tourism NI is also recognising that people will want to take a run down into County Down or up the north coast or wherever as well, or maybe stay, you know, if you're a US visitor, you probably, Leslie Ann knows all the stats better than me, but maybe 8 days, you probably want to spend at least 3 of those days somewhere else. If you're a UK visitor, you're maybe there for 5 days, and again, you might want to spend a day. So absolutely, we are working, clearly we would like to maximise the return for Belfast, but we recognise it's important, and it's part of our work with Tourism NI to also promote. So for example, the accommodation, the website shows the accommodation all over Northern Ireland and makes that available, and that's what we'll continue to do. In terms of, I suppose, the economic benefit, part of our business engagement is trying to make sure, you know, we maximise, even from the point of view of, you know, obviously there's a core in the city centre, but we know lots of stuff is happening in neighbourhoods. So, you know, little businesses or coffee shops out in our neighbourhoods, hopefully they'll benefit from all of that too. And I say, obviously, a big part of all of this is making sure people come back. I mean, the big economic in this is a whole raft of people that come once, but way better, come again, come again, come again. And they absolutely, you know, if they come once, they will absolutely go other places the next time. So if it's Belfast this time or Belfast plus this time, might well be the plus next time, and that's the wider benefit.
Yeah, I suppose just to pick up on those, and Damien did get his figures right, so particularly out-of-state visitors, we know from previous reports, come for 8 days is the average. They spend 5 days at the Fleadh and 3 days kind of exploring and getting out and about, because a lot of the attendees who come, this is their summer holiday, and this is their time to explore and invest in that. The economic return is calculated on a basis of there's a tried and tested model, which is the Sheffield Hallam Events Economic Impact Calculator, and that's how you kind of break down that day spend, your overnight spend, and it's the values shift and change dependent as to whether they're domestic or out-of-state visitors. So there is hopefully a bit of science in behind that. But what is equally as important as the economic value is the social value and the social return that this will deliver as well. And we're making sure that our original business case stands up on both sides of that piece. The volunteers that we've talked about are critical to part of that visitor servicing as well, because often they're the first face that people see, whether they're coming in through a train station, through our airports, and they're there to do that ambassadorial welcome and orienteering place, and also through their training will be well briefed on fringe activity and also the wider kind of Northern Ireland proposition, so that if people are looking for ideas or inspiration as to what they can see and do in their downtime, that our volunteers form part of that network that can help signpost people as well.
I'm looking forward to it, and I will visit, and as a keen photographer, I will bring the camera with me. I can throw out a few reels or jigs and a penny whistle. But I grew up in the era of Danann and Plankstay and the Chieftains, and of course the iconic Dubliners, so I'm maybe a wee bit ancient. But look, I have no doubt it's going to be a success, but not only a success, but build upon the success of this year to make next year an even better success. So congratulations, I wish you well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Morris. And Mark.
Gurma agad Cahirach agus Fleadh Cheoil and Dunya. I think you started early in your presentation. You spoke of the role that the Fleadh and I suppose culture in general can, should and does play in bringing people together, and I think we've already seen evidence of that this morning. I thought I'd logged on to the wrong committee. It's rare that you see such consensus and positivity around the table or around the chamber in Stormont, so well done. I share the excitement, enthusiasm that other members have expressed. Also have a wee bit of envy because I remember so well the excellent experience of the Fleadh in Derry in 2013, the huge tourism impact that had, the associated economic benefit, and just the feel-good factor and buzz that it created around the place. Now, in terms of the challenges, logistics and otherwise, and the interface with different government departments and agencies around different aspects of that planning process, and I know there's a good relationship with the council, but have you met any challenges? Is there anything that you might need more political support to solve or is everything running smoothly?
Famous last words.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot still to be done, and we need, everybody coming behind us and working with us. But up to date, that's the way it's been. We know we've still, done lots of planning, but one of the bits is everything then comes together. You do all your plans, but you have to knit everything together at the end, so that it all makes sense. So, for example, been loads of work going on in the programming. We've known the detail of that for a while, but it's only coming out. But then you've got to knit that together with your venues and your transport. So all the component parts are there. We just got to knit it together now, and we absolutely need the support of our government partners and agencies just in that big shove across the line. But that's what we've been getting. We asked for it. We obviously spoke to lots of ministers and senior politicians in the run-up to the bidding, and they gave us their support. And I think, to be fair, the message has clearly gone down to officials as well to work with us, and let's maximise the benefit.
Yeah, I think as well, we'd be very naive if we said this isn't complicated and complex, because it is. It is a huge scale, large numbers, operating within a city that still needs to function and have some element of business as usual. August is also a busy month in terms of visitors, tourism and festivals and events as well. So it's about finding those opportunities to face those challenges together with a positive approach to them, and that's what we have got from all of our partners and our members around the table, and everybody coming to the table with an approach of trying to find a solution that works. And likewise with our business stakeholders in the city centre as well, understanding, yes, there will be some diversions and, changes to deliveries and bin collections and everything, but the opportunity that this presents, not just for the week, but for that return and that repeat piece and the profile of the city is for the greater good, and that's what everybody's buying into so far.
Yeah. And I suppose I'd just say from a Comhaltas perspective, we have had... it has been an open door for us coming in. Everybody we have spoken to, everybody has got behind it, and everybody has seen the opportunity that it is. So I know the council here will be dealing with a lot more of the intricate detail of it, but from our perspective, it has been a very open and welcoming environment to bring the plan. As a Ard Corla member and proud County Down, Grania has been at a lot of the different events and spoken to different people, so it's...
I have to say, Belfast City Council, I shouldn't let Leslie and Damien hear this now, they've been amazing. And really, there's people who are working on the Fleadh who have never been to a Fleadh, know nothing about Comhaltas with traditional music, and they have fully embraced everything to do with the planning for the Fleadh, and they have become so knowledgeable about all the different intricacies within the Fleadh, and it's been a fantastic working relationship now.
Okay, fantastic, and I have to say, and you've set out quite a lot of the legacy of it and how important that legacy element will be. And in terms of the Department for Communities' core role in culture and arts, and it's really obviously of great relevance to this committee and the department. Are there any business plans in relation to how we frame legacy going forward? Are there anything outstanding within the department that we need to be picking up on?
If any spare money, we'd happily help them out when they're coming to the end of the year. No, I suppose, and I said earlier, I want the Fleadh to be that tide that lifts all boats, because I, having worked for Comhaltas and worked in traditional music for the last 20 plus years, I can see the value that it has, both socially and economically. We've been running peace programmes, we've been running T-Buck programmes, we've been running that for years, and you can see the impact it can have. But also then, like, we would have worked very closely with the RSPBA-NI, this Pipe Bands Association, and we're all operating, and I know maybe not the forum for it, but everybody here is operating on the shoestring, I suppose, is just the best way to put it. And I would hope that when we come out of here, that there's a different viewpoint towards traditions and culture, and people can see, it has a social value, but most importantly for the economists and the accountants and departments and across this building and government buildings, that they can see there's a monetary value return in it as well. And they can see, if we invest in here, then that can come out. Now, is there a business plan? We had been working on a business plan with the department a number of years ago, but things kind of got busy, and probably need to revisit it from a Comhaltas point of view to come in. But again, I think the job of work for now is deliver these two flags and just show how positive it can all be.
Listen, thank you for the presentation. I think the other thing that for me is really significant is where the culture is at across the city, and I think that's going to be a significant, maybe even an eye opener for many people across just where things are at in that case. I'll come back in a wee second, Mark. I might have cut you off in your prime there, did I? But I'll just finish this piece out. So I think and that a very strong sense of sharing each other and exchanging each other's cultures is really strong, and I think that's what's going to make it so special. But anyway, Mark, maybe I come back, I cut across you, did I?
It's just one very short but extremely important question I had left here.
Okay.
And so, given the 2-year model and it's the norm to host the Fleadh in the same location for 2 years, I suppose spoke of the success of the Fleadh in Derry in 2013. Do you still owe us a year? And what have we to do to get you back up?
There was nobody more surprised than me when the application didn't come in for 2014, but if you need a conversation, I'll pop up and chat to you about getting planning in place.
An important question indeed for regional balance, Mark. Thank you. So listen, members, I'm going to propose that we take a short break and we pick up on any actions following afterwards, because we have a double briefing coming up. But maybe just before the guys leave, I was going to also suggest we do a quick pick. And I think we can get the members on screen in on that as well if we arrange it right. So just to flag up to stay on screen there and just stay alert for a minute. So we'll maybe get a pic. I think it's been a great session, and I wouldn't mind getting a picture with committee if members are content.
Close broadcast now?
Yeah, please do.
Committee Room 29. Sound. 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 Committee Room 29, 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 Sound.
Yes, and he was ready anyway, so might need a long bit of paper to list all of those.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning. I was going to pick up
That's
first.
live now.
I was going to pick up first on the actions. Will I leave that now to after this?
Pick them up first if you want.
First. Okay, members, just before we come to the briefing here that the guys have come in for, I want to pick up there on any follow-up actions in relation to that last session with Comhaltas Ceoltóirí Éireann in relation to the Belfast Fleadh. Is there anything that members wish to pick up as an action, or members content?
Content, Chair, but can we have feedback? If
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, absolutely. So report back after in the aftermath of the Fleadh as to how. Yeah. Members content with that? Okay. Okay, thanks members. So then we'll move on to our agenda item 6, and this is in relation to the Northern Ireland Football Fund Grassroots Facilities Programme, and we're taking an oral briefing from the Department for Communities.
Could I declare an interest as a member of the AFA, the Harry Gregg Foundation, the North West Football Association, the Korean District League? I think that'll do me.
That's the ones you can remember for now, Morris. Thank you. And fair play. Thank you, Morris. Yeah, members, moving on then to the briefing paper, which is at for the agenda item, which is page 37 of the meeting pack. I now welcome the following officials to the meeting. We have Ian Greenway, who's Deputy Secretary for Engaged Communities Group, Joanna Gray, who is Senior Responsible Owner for TNIF, and Nicola Leckie, who's Head of Grassroots. So Ian, I think it's yourself going to make a brief opening statement, and then we'll move to questions from members. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the opportunity to brief the committee on the Northern Ireland Football Fund this morning. We've provided you with a short written briefing providing overall programme progress to date. Today's discussion, or this part of today's discussion, focuses on the grassroots facilities strand of the programme. Given the scale of demand and the range of delivery partners involved, a pilot approach was adopted to allow the department to begin supporting delivery on the ground while also building a clearer picture of need. The pilot also enables delivery arrangements to be tested and robust assessment governance and legal controls to be embedded before progressing to a wider programme. A £9 million budget has been allocated to the pilot, which represents a significant first tranche of targeted investment. The funding is focused on projects capable of delivering meaningful improvements to participation, safety and inclusion. Clear eligibility criteria were applied, including a funding range of £500,000 to £1.5 million, to avoid an unmanageable number of applications and to allow delivery to be tested through a limited number of larger, more strategic projects. The pilot programme therefore prioritises projects where investment has the potential to be transformational, rather than dispersing limited resources across a high volume of smaller interventions. The pilot's design took account of the existing grassroots facilities scheme delivered in partnership between the Irish FA and the Department for Culture, Media and Sport. That scheme is managed by Cooperation Ireland and is limited to funding for pitches with awards of up to £500,000. The scheme has been in operation for 4 years and has been subject to significant over-demand against available budget. The scheme's total budget to date is £9.9 million. The TNIF Grassroots pilot application form was designed to be straightforward for clubs to complete, while still ensuring projects are realistic and capable of being delivered. It acted as a proportionate business case supported by guidance, reducing the reliance on clubs having prior experience on preparing formal business cases. Requirements that have acted as barriers in other schemes, including planning permission and high partnership funding thresholds, were deliberately reduced at application stage. Applications were invited from affiliated organisations across the 4 Irish FA divisional associations to ensure an appropriate geographical spread and a representative mix of facility types progressing through the assessment process. Support was provided to applicants through a programme of in-person information sessions which were held in Ballymoney, Dungannon, 2 sessions in Belfast and Limavady alongside 2 online sessions. Applications to Stream 1 closed on 15th of April with 35 applications received. This represents a strong but manageable level of demand and highlights the extent of need for investment in football facilities across the region. Application to Stream 2 for councils closed on Wednesday the 29th of April with 7 applications received. The Department is committed to transparency and fairness. Applications will be assessed against published criteria with emphasis on need, value for money and community benefit. Officials are currently undertaking the assessment and scoring process. It's anticipated that applications will be notified by around September. Subject to assessment processes, projects will then progress through the necessary due diligence and assurance processes prior to any funding being released. This pilot provides an evidence base to inform future decisions on a wider rollout, drawing on delivery experience, affordability and lessons learned. Success will be assessed against delivery timescales, applicant readiness, governance and legal requirements, and value for money and community benefit. I will now provide a brief update on the National Football Centre strand before handing back to the Chair. The department continues to work closely with the Irish FA on the development of the National Football Centre. The department continues to be represented on the project board, but this project is led by the Irish FA. It is proposed that Phase 1, the elite element of the facility, will be fully funded by the Irish FA, with funding for additional pitches being met by the department. Development of a business case is in the final stages of completion, and the department expects this to go through normal internal approval processes over the coming weeks. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so members, just in advance of questioning this, I'd like to remind you that the second briefing is closed. That's the briefing that's in relation to the matters that are before the court. So I want members to be very, very clear that there's two separate sessions. In relation to the second session, I will be reminding members that legal proceedings are active in relation to matters connected with the NI Football Fund. Understanding Order 73, the committee must not consider or discuss matters which are sub judice except to the extent that the Chair is satisfied that such consideration would not prejudice those proceedings. Members should therefore avoid making reference to the details of the ongoing legal challenge or expressing views which could be seen to anticipate or influence the outcome of those proceedings. Questions in the second session should instead focus on general policy, process and administration. And if I consider a line of question risk breaching the sub judice rule, I will intervene accordingly. But I do want to emphasise this grassroots programme there is no proceedings in relation to. So I'd ask members to keep those differentiations in mind as we move through this briefing today. So questions then in relation to this one, Ian, and thank you for your briefing in relation to that. For Stream 1, only the highest scoring application from each Irish FA division and association will move forward. How confident are officials that this approach balances quality, need and, crucially, geographical fairness, particularly where some areas may have submitted more applications than others?
We are, as always in any scheme, Chair, attempting to balance a whole range of factors. And because of the spread of clubs, grassroots clubs across Northern Ireland, and because there is a structure within the football world, within the Irish FA of 4 divisional leagues, we took that approach. This is a pilot approach. It won't be the end. We don't intend for it to be the end of funding. It is allowing us to test out a whole range of things. Clubs did not have to be affiliated to the league. They could self-declare which area they were in. That was an important point of clarification in the early part of this process. So if somebody is based in Downpatrick, for talk's sake, but is not affiliated to the league in that area, they could still apply and tick that box as being in that area. So we're trying to balance up a whole range of things in a pilot programme which will only be able to take forward a small number in any case.
Okay, so are you saying that it may not be geographically balanced as a result of the criteria you're using?
It will be geographically balanced in the sense because we have force-fitted it to geographic balance with there are 4 league areas, there will be at least one from each league. Yes. There is a small footnote that if there's still funding available in the budget when 4 are dealt with, there are then in a sense geographically 2 wildcards, if you want, of where the 2 strongest council applications come from those submitted.
Yeah, and in relation to Stream 2 then, 4 councils didn't submit applications. So there's clearly maybe an issue there. Has any work been done at this point to understand why those councils didn't apply? And could that non-application indicate lower need? Or is it maybe a lack of readiness, maybe capacity constraints or other barriers in the pilot design that we could be looking at to expand it? Go ahead, Nicola.
Yeah, so we've had early engagement with our CLOA reps with regards to those councils that didn't apply. We have actually issued a questionnaire to the councils through the CLOA rep to try and determine the reasons why they didn't. So at this stage we're not in a position to say why they didn't apply, but we're certainly looking into trying to establish the reasons.
What reps was that you referred to there?
So it's our CLOA, the
Chief Leisure Officers Association. So we've been working very closely with them. That's all the leisure officers from across all the councils. And I think the councils would probably want us to make the point that there is need right across Northern Ireland. We've seen that in the evidence that we have, suboptimal as it is. So we need to work with them just to look at the reasons that they didn't apply, but I think it's unlikely to be lack of need.
I can certainly speak anecdotally about one of the councils that didn't apply. They were working with a particular grassroots club in a particular part of the district, and that things just didn't gel together in time for when the closing date came along. It wasn't a lack of need, it was just things didn't mesh and work for them in the time frame.
Yeah. So given that it's not lack of need, I get a sense you would share the concern that there's something there that needs looked at.
I mean, look, as we say, it's a pilot programme. We know that the grassroots sector is enormous, and that there is a high level of need out there for additional facilities, for additional pitches. We've seen that through all of the evidence that we have, but as I say, the evidence that we were able to gather was suboptimal in terms of being able to be really specific about need. So part of the process here of the pilot is actually about an information gathering exercise as well, to fully understand what the need is and how to properly target it.
Yeah, and I have to say, I have attended this past 2 years the City Hall, the Grassroots event in City Hall. Absolutely inspiring and uplifting, I have to say, in terms of the inclusivity, how they're bringing people into sport. So I think they really, really need, and we need to make sure that benefit's being enjoyed right across the north. So there is some wonderful work going on there, I have to say. I'm really impressed with it. Okay, I'm going to come to our Deputy Chair now, Cathy Mason. Go ahead, Cathy.
Sure, Margaret. Chair. And Ian, I'm glad to hear you mentioned I'm Patrick there. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come, not to be parochial at all. Just a couple of brief questions, and I'll maybe declare just an interest at the start as a member of the GAA. Is the department planning to roll out any similar funding to support GAA facilities?
At this stage, as the committee will be aware, the genesis of the what's now called the Northern Ireland Football Fund was the sub-regional programme, which was an executive commitment alongside the regional stadia programme. So that is the genesis of this programme. Minister, you will have heard him talk many times how committed he is to sport, and all the things you've just described there, Chair, of what sport can deliver to people and to communities. So he is, you will have heard him, as I say, many times be passionate around that. At the moment, the executive evolved football fund is the main capital programme for sporting facilities as part of that wider programme for the regional stadia.
So that's a no then?
Not through the football fund. I'm aware there are colleagues who are working on community infrastructure fund and many other things. There may have been sporting clubs applied to those. I'm not familiar with the criteria around all of those other kinds of funding, neighbourhood renewal and so on.
Okay, so in terms of this, there's no similar funding that's going to be rolled out?
At this stage, I can't speak in advance of an agreed budget. We all know the budget is going to be very tight. It is this funding that had evolved from a previous executive that we are working to deliver.
Okay. Do you have, just on that then, in terms of priorities within the department, are you able to provide any update on Casement Park?
I wasn't coming to speak on that. I think Minister has answered a number of assembly questions recently, including to some members of the committee. Work is progressing on that project.
But you don't have any details?
I'm not in a position, I have not brought the detailed briefing with me for that.
Okay, this session is in relation to the football fund.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, sure, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Going now to Maurice. Go ahead, Maurice, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for your presentation. I'm kind of guarded in what I say because of my affiliations with so many different things. But part of the problem with council areas is that they fall within two different divisional associations. And within each divisional association there are a number of leagues who affiliate to the IFA through that divisional association. So it's a complicated structure, and I would be keen to hear of any problems that you've encountered using that structure. For instance, the town I live in and the league that I am involved with, we have teams from County Antrim and County Londonderry who are in the North West Divisional Association and the County Antrim Divisional Association, and it's a very complex mix trying to get that sorted out. So I was wondering, have you had any difficulties?
Nicola, do you want to pick that one up?
Yeah, I suppose we did give a lot of thought to this and how we could have that spread of projects. And we thought the best place to look was how football does it. And football has the 4 associations. We are aware that some teams will go across the different associations. So we stated that it's whatever association your senior team is associated to. We also were aware that there may be some teams that aren't actually associated. Initially we thought that would have been the women's teams, but the Irish FA had told us that their understanding is that most women's teams are all associated to a divisional association. So the only ones that we established that perhaps weren't associated to association was those junior teams. And that's why we then had a line in to say that if you're not associated to an association, you could self-select based on your geographical area. But we haven't had any feedback or any concerns with regards to how the clubs apply based on that divisional association.
Can I just add, the Football Fund was never intended to interfere with how football runs itself. And we're not in any way attempting to influence that. That's for the governing body, for the leagues. We're working with them. So as Nicola has explained, we've deliberately designed the programme across all strands to think about how it will best serve football. We're not trying to get football to change.
Well, I'm not suggesting that, but I'm giving you an example. From Culmore to Port Stewart is northwest, and from Portrush to Belfast is County Antrim. So there's a vast geographical spread, and I worry that the methodology being used is going to preclude some clubs because of where they're situated and within the divisional association.
It didn't limit them. They were still able to make their own determination about which division that they wanted to be assessed within.
Yeah, but you're saying one successful applicant in each division, more or less. That's a very difficult choice to make when the geographical spread is so wide.
It is, but with 35 applications and the expectation that we'll make around 6 awards, I think that's not a bad ratio. So again, it's a pilot, it's something we'll look at, and you're right, if we determine that it was not the optimal way to disperse funding, then we'll change it.
The other question, with your permission, Chair, is teams that have applied that are not affiliated to any divisional association are therefore not playing affiliated football, and therefore that itself creates problems, insurance and so on and so forth, which I'm not going to get down into the nitty-gritty at the minute, but clubs that are not affiliated to affiliated football.
Do you mean clubs that are not licensed by the IFA?
No, not licensed. Affiliated to
a league.
Yeah. So if I had a football club and I wanted to play competition football, I would affiliate to the nearest league.
Yes, but you're licensed by the IFA.
From that league to the divisional association, and via the divisional association to the IFA,
yeah.
And it's all structured. But if you're in a club that's not affiliated to a league, a divisional association, I struggle to find out why you would get funding. I mean, you still apply, but I struggle to, if you have a club that's not playing anywhere, why would you apply? Doesn't make sense to me, but I'll leave that for another day.
It might be difficult for them to score highly on the application in terms of demonstrating their need.
Yeah, but I'll leave that for another day. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Morris. Melissa Lanneray.
Just excuse me. Question just in relation to multi-sport or shared facilities. Was there any consideration actually given to the likes of that? And I'm thinking in particular there, we'll say the likes of Healy Park and Oma, where in fact that is a shared facility in so many ways, and it would have been a great benefit to them if they'd been in a position to apply to the funding. So as I say, was there any consideration taken on board?
The criteria were around a football club or the owner of a facility or a council in the other strand could apply. There were certain criteria about what ownership meant in terms of length of lease, etc. So an owner of a facility could apply. It was not solely football clubs. That owner would need to be working in association with a football club. So Healy Park, whoever owns that, if it's council, they had a strand of their own to come through. If it's not council, the owner of that park could have applied in consortium with whatever football club plays there.
Yeah. And then in relation to the rollout of the programme and that as well too, have you done an assessment in terms of grassroots clubs, we'll say, in the rural area and that?
We've done the best that we can with the evidence that we've been able to gather from clubs themselves, from councils and their facilities, strategies, from work that the Department for Culture, Media and Sport in London has done right across the UK in terms of looking at grassroots football facilities and availability, because they've been rolling out funding in partnership with the football associations. So we do know that there is a significant deficit of facilities available. We've talked to the leagues as well, so we know that not only is there a significant deficit of facilities actually available to meet demand, but many of the facilities that are available are not fit for purpose, frankly, and have issues around, dignity for changing facilities, particularly for women and girls and so on, for, just fit for purpose to encourage people to get involved. But what we're hoping is that this pilot scheme will give us another layer of rich information for including rural areas, exactly about what need is and where there are gaps.
Could I just try to ask then, too, again, going back to, as I said, that example that I used in relation to Haley Park and so on. Did you go out of your way in order to inform all of these different structures or clubs or facilities that there was a fund available?
Yeah, we've done a significant amount of promotion and information sessions, yes, to make clubs aware. We've worked with the Irish FA and, as Nicola's mentioned, with councils as well, to make sure that we've made as many clubs as possible aware that they could apply. Now, the pilot was targeted at applications for grant in the £500,000 up to £1.5 million window, which is more than the IFA's scheme that they've been operating with the DCMS money, which is up to £500,000. And I think that may have limited some clubs as well, because those are larger applications. We've got the evidence from the IFA scheme being over demand and ours now being over demand, that we know at all levels there is a need for significant investment. So I think we've done everything we could to make people aware that the funding was available and try and engage with them to get information from them. But we have a survey which is also still open, and we want clubs to engage with to gather information if they didn't apply as to why not and what their needs are. Does
That's a really important strand, Melissa, that why did people not apply? It could be because they've not got the capacity to apply. It could be they've not got a need at the moment. It could be they're in a complex set of lease negotiations and that isn't resolved. It could be one of a number of reasons, but we want to understand that so we can help. That's another strand of information to inform what the need is, not just this snapshot in this particular application window.
So I asked the question, to what extent were all structures aware in order to make an application, but exactly.
We use both the football structures, if you like, the council structures, our own networks of social media and website, all of those normal things. To be honest, availability of money in large quantity tends to spread quite well, but if we find there were cold spots in this through this pilot,
we'll look at that.
and gaps where we could have used other comms, that will be a key point of learning as well.
And your briefing refers to the fact that the response to the questionnaire was low, and that could have an impact then in capturing that wider. Yes. Are you proposing to do any further or to try to close that gap of information?
We have been working with IFA because IFA will be doing mail shots, or I use an old-fashioned word, mail shots out to the football world about many things. And we have been pushing that. We've extended the date. Take-up still isn't great. People look at it, I think it's human nature, you look at the things and no, I'm not going to apply for that, and you don't realise there's the questionnaire on the back end. So we are continuing to work with IFA about how we can gather that. We know it will be anecdotal, we know it will be self-selecting sample, but we're trying to get as many pots of data as we can. We've been talking with the IFA about what's called their Comet system, which every club, every player at any level, at any age in Northern Ireland is registered through, to see what data is there sitting in there. So there's both statistical data and then the more qualitative data from the survey.
Okay, Mark, I'll have to go on then to Mark. Go ahead, please.
Cheers, Chair, and thanks to the team for coming along. In terms of the questionnaire that is seeking to establish why clubs or owners haven't applied, has that been pitched at all clubs then, and not just clubs who would have been eligible to apply?
Deliberately pitched at them all, Mark, because we want as much feedback on that as possible. In fact, actually, we're surveying councils as well. It could be completed by clubs even who did apply, but clearly what we're particularly interested in is information from clubs who didn't, because we're going to get quite rich information from the applications from those that did apply. But yes, all clubs, whether they're eligible or not.
No, well, that's very important, I suppose, because from clubs I've engaged with, the biggest barrier to application that I've come across has been, I suppose, that lack of ownership or even long-term security or somewhere to call home. And I don't know, is that maybe more pronounced where the deficit in facilities that you've rightly recognised, Joanna, is most acute, and therefore there's most demand on the facilities that do exist, which makes it more difficult for an individual club even to get a service level agreement with a council, because there are so many other clubs competing for and relying on the same pitch to play on. Could you foresee potentially the design of a future scheme aimed at, I suppose, helping clubs establish routes? Because this grassroots scheme, or this pilot, the clubs who'll be the beneficiaries of this are those who already have routes. Do you know what I mean? Which remains a pipe dream for so many other clubs.
The clubs that you're referring to, Mark, are those clubs where they're just renting space on an existing ground that might be owned by a council or a private operator, rather than with a number of other clubs competing to access that ground. So clubs that had aspirations to own a ground were eligible to apply and could have made an application. Now, there was an expectation that it wasn't just a completely conceptual idea, that they maybe had done some work to, explore a specific site, but there was an opening for clubs to apply on the basis that they would want to acquire land to establish a ground. We'll see when the information comes back, when we're able to gather it all. I think that possibly is quite a stretch for some grassroots clubs, to actually go that far. But certainly there's evidence to show that creation of new facilities is something that is probably required to fill gaps. So yeah, we'll take that on board, absolutely, and consider whether then do we need to do more work, for instance, with councils and again with a governing body, rather than expecting that it's clubs themselves bring forward proposals for new facilities. But yeah, something to take on board for sure, that balance between the clubs themselves driving their need and sort of doing onto them by creating facilities through councils, for instance.
I would just add as a counterpoint to that, Mark, committee, that we also have, if we look at Northern Ireland PLC, the amount we can invest in anything. We're taking football pitches here, but the same would apply to anything. Let's make good use of everything we have. Yeah. And for instance, the Your School, Your Club is about clubs working with schools. So every club having its own ground, which will be really busily used 5 till 9 in the evening, Monday to Friday, and on Saturday, maybe Sunday morning for women's football, and it's quiet the rest of the time, which is actually the time schools are busy. As an example, we have to make sure that we're not just making one for everyone, but that we're looking overall within the borough, which is where councils become so important as a key provider of these things, that we've got enough, we don't create an excess.
Yeah.
But we have to, include ownership, because our requirements of grant mean that we need to place charges on an asset, so the applicant has to have either a long lease or ownership, just because of the requirements of our good governance.
Yeah.
Sorry, could I just add, it's really important, Mark, if you can go out to your constituents with regards to that questionnaire, because unless we know the reasons why people aren't applying, it's very hard for us moving forward to be able to do anything to kind of help those clubs that perhaps want or have that need with regards to our policy objectives moving forward. So appreciate then if you could kind of raise their awareness for that questionnaire.
I'll certainly be happy if we could just maybe have it circulated to members. That would be
absolutely
spread that far away.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go back to Morris there for a question. Go ahead, Morris.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks for letting me back. And again, I just looked at Comment there. There's 295 clubs registered in Comment. And God knows how many thousands of players. But one of the problems for clubs to apply for grants is the fact that they do not own their own ground. Most of the football grounds in Northern Ireland are owned by the councils. and the councils are reluctant to give a long-term lease to a football club because of the complexities, the unsureties and the lifespan of a particular club. So that in itself hampers a lot of clubs for applications. So you need to get back to the basics at the very bottom and work the way up instead of from the top down.
Well, we
and
need
work out the funding.
With respect, we probably need to work top down, bottom up, side in on all of these things. We have been talking with IFA about can we gather a bit more information in Comet about some of the corporate things, if you like, not just every player is in there with their date of birth and the photo and which club they're affiliated to, etc. But how many clubs have their own facilities? There will be an address for each club, but we don't know whether that's their own facility, the secretary's home address, whatever. But another key element is if you're going to have a long lease or own a ground, you're going to have a corporate entity. And a lot of those 295 clubs will be unincorporated societies, maybe with individual trustees who own whatever assets they own in the name of the individual trustee. We are unlikely to grant fund an organisation that does not have a corporate entity against which they can own land and so on. So we're saying to IFA, can we drill down into Comet with some extra questions about what your corporate structure is, a community interest company, a limited company, whatever it may be, because that will become an issue when we get it more into these questions of land.
It's also not necessarily the feedback that we've had from the sector that all clubs want to own grounds. They want access to grounds, obviously, but it doesn't necessarily mean, particularly if they're unincorporated associations, that they want to have the additional, running burdensome activities. So that's why we're working closely with councils as well, on the basis that it's about access to pitches at the time that they're needed, as opposed to necessarily about ownership. It's about making sure there are enough facilities and they're fit for purpose so that everyone who wants to access them can, and that they can attract new people into the sport.
Just one caveat, and that's me finished, Chair. The problem with grassroots football is the councils own and maintain the pitch. The football clubs hire that facility on a Saturday.
In many cases, yeah.
If a club were to take over a lease or ownership, then they're liable for the maintenance and the upkeep of the ground. And in grassroots football, there are very few clubs that can afford that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's, again, narrowing the field of who can apply and who can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Chair.
No, no worries. I think members will be content to allow an indulgence for the committee's resident expert in the soccer field. So I think that's relevant. So, okay, members, the officials are staying on for the next session, but I just want to pick up if there's any follow-up actions in relation to this item before we move into the closed session. Any follow-up?
There was one I noted there for the circulation of the questionnaire to members, if you could provide that.
Provide that, absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, members. So, members, then, as the next agenda item is an oral briefing. You okay, Victoria? Sorry, Sean, go ahead, Sean.
Was your hand up, Sean?
No, okay. Members, as the next agenda item is an oral briefing in relation to TNIF, and the department has requested it to be held in closed session, I propose that the meeting now moves into closed session. Are members agreed? Agreed. Thank you, members. So this is agenda item 7, but I'll wait for the broadcasting to be ended.
Committee Room 29. Sound. 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 Committee Room 29, 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 Sound.
confirmed live, Chair.
Okay, members, that's us confirmed back in live session, and we're resuming our meeting at agenda item 8. This is an SL1. It's the draft Local Government Pension Scheme Amendment Regulations NI 2026, McCloud Remedy and Annual Benefits Statements. The papers for the agenda item can be found starting at page 44 of the meeting pack, and there's further papers at page 3 of the table pack. By way of reminder, members, the initial correspondence in relation to this SL1 was received on 24th of April and therefore was considered under the new process for delegated legislation. Members will recall that when we considered the rule on the 7th of May, we agreed to publish the Department's papers, issue a call for evidence with a closing date of 20th of May. No responses were received. Reconsider the SL1 together with any responses from the call for evidence and request a briefing from the Department to answer members' queries. We now have Department officials with us today to brief on the SL1, so I'll go ahead now and welcome to the meeting Simon Sloan, who's Principal Local Government Policy and Legislation, and Willie Dobbin, and Willie is Deputy Principal Local Government Policy and Legislation. So Simon, I think it's yourself maybe who's going to make an opening statement, and then we'll come to members' questions.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to brief the committee on the draft Pension Scheme Amendment Regulations and your letter, which we have replied to. I hope you had time to receive that reply and the responses that we gave to the questions.
Just about came in time for table paper, so it was close
Apologies
enough,
if that was. I think the bank holiday may have impacted that. Apologies.
Oh, okay, thank you.
These amending regulations introduce a limited and temporary discretion relating to annual benefit statements to ensure that members of the scheme continue to receive accurate and reliable information while outstanding elements of the McCloud remedy are finalised. The draft regulations are subject to negative resolution procedure and must be made in operation by 31st of August this year, since statements are due to be issued to scheme beneficiaries on that date. I can set out the policy behind the regulations. It's just quite brief. Annual statements provide members with an estimate of their pension benefits, which they've built up as at 31st of March of each year. And those statements must include a projection of benefits to normal pension age, which in scheme is linked to state pension age. Under regulations in the Local Government Pension Scheme, Regulations 2014, the scheme provider, which is NILGOSC, must issue the statements to all relevant members by the 31st of August, and those statements must include information relating to the McCloud remedy. These regulations will introduce a discretion to enable the NILGOSC as scheme manager to temporarily disapply the requirement to include that McCloud information into statements for 2 years only, 2025-6 and 26-7. Where the required guidance and software is impacting the ability for NILGOSC to provide that information for a small number of members or a group of members. NILGOSC continues to make significant progress on implementing McCloud remedy changes. However, for a small number of cases, it can't complete the calculations which are required to accurately forecast and reflect the remedy due to variables which are currently outside NILGOSC's immediate control. Those are pending guidance from the Government Actuaries Department and ongoing software development issues affecting club transfer issues, currently expected to be resolved in early 2027. So the policy aim to be achieved by our amending regs is to ensure that the benefit statements issued remain accurate and reliable while full McCloud remedy implementation continues. These draft regulations will allow NILGOSC to temporarily disapply their requirements to include those McCloud remedy information for the 2 years 25-6, 26-7, only where required guidance and software is not available for affected members. So it's time limited. It will not remove or delay any members' entitlement to their pension under the McCloud remedy. It's just simply the information which would isn't able to be provided to them for those years in question. NILGOSC have estimated that around 400 members may be affected by potential impacts in 25-26, and a smaller cohort of affected group in 26-27. Where members require additional pension information, NILGOSC have undertaken to continue to provide this on an individual basis subject to the guidance and software constraints which they are experiencing. Without this amendment, Nilgosk would be required to report a technical breach to the pensions regulator for failure to provide McCloud remedy information. Although they continue to act proportionately and in good faith, and a breach reporting, a technical breach, would add to Nilgosk's workload, which would then divert time and resource away from full implementation of delivery of the McCloud remedy. So we consider the amendment supports effective and proportionate regulation while allowing resources to remain focused on completing the implementation of the remedy. In summary, the regulations provide a targeted, temporary and proportionate solution that protects members, supports good administration and enables the continued delivery of high quality statement information. We think it's a pragmatic solution which enables Nilgosk to continue to meet its requirements under benefit statements on time, where McCloud data is incomplete for a small number of members, as I said, 400 out of 116,000 members affected, and also remain compliant with the scheme regulations. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for forwarding on the answers to some of the queries that have already arisen, so I appreciate that. I see Sian is indicating there, so Sian, go ahead please. You're on mute, Sian, I think.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you so much. I know that it was my colleague Kelly Armstrong who had raised the desire for a bit of clarity around why the McCloud wasn't going to be I suppose applied or quickly applied. I'm just wondering, you've said there that those affected members will receive a paper annual benefit statement. I'm just wondering what other communication that they will receive outlining I suppose an accessible explanation. Sometimes we get explanations about particular pensions that might not be as accessible or as easily understood. And then I'm wondering what safeguards are being put in place to make sure this doesn't become a rolling delay. And then finally, just whether do we think Nilgosk have the adequate resources to complete the remaining remedy calculations in a suitable time frame?
Okay, to take your first question, I understand that Nilgosk will provide an explanatory note to any affected members who won't be receiving McCloud information for the reasons that I've outlined, but also inviting them to contact Nilgosk to remain in touch with them should they require that information in year. And Nilgosk have undertaken to provide that where possible to affected members. Sorry, you'd asked then about how we can ensure that it isn't going to be a rolling scheme. These
rolling delay.
Yeah, the amendments is time limited, so it'll only affect 25/6, 26/7 in terms of allowing disapplication of the requirement on Nilgosk, who are confident, projecting forward, that the cohort of affected people is diminishing. The first time this happened was back in 23/4, and I think the affected number of beneficiaries was 692. This is anticipated to be 400 in 25/6, and subsequent year even less. So the affected groups diminishing numbers would suggest, and is projected to not need any subsequent changes for future years in terms of administering the scheme within the requirements. And as I said, the work that's ongoing is also tied up with legislative changes which are now in train or already in place, and those being made has the application of that has allowed the proper guidance to now be finalised by the Government Actuaries Department, and to provide the surety that and the explanatory information that's needed to inform the pension scheme operators and the beneficiaries, and also the software providers are able to then enact the necessary financial updates to the scheme systems that run as a result of the changes in legislation and the implementation of the guidance. So it's something that both scheme providers and the department are monitoring closely. There's regular monitoring and update information from both the Government Actuaries Department and ourselves and software developers who are working on the scheme changes that are needed to inform the pension providers' financial systems. So there is close monitoring. They're really catching up with the vast amount of regulatory changes and improvements that need to come in on the back of the McCloud remedy consequences. So we're confident, as are the scheme providers, that this type of amendment won't be required in the future.
Okay.
Was there a question? Was there a part of your question about capacity with Nilgosk or something, Sean? Was there as well?
Yeah, it was just whether, like, are we confident then? I suppose it's kind of been answered in the respect that you're saying that you are confident that once we get past, I suppose, this financial year and the next, that going forward it won't be needed. So it's not, there's no, I suppose, need for long-term resource planning for Nilgosk to be able to complete the remaining remedy calculations, but you're confident enough that for this financial year next that they do have the resources to complete those necessary remedies.
Yes, the guidance in respect of the pension credits and the software development will be completed within the next 2 years.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Any other questions, members? Oh yes, Maurice, you had indicated, yeah.
And it's the exemption applied for this year. It's already been applied for a few times. What assurance can you give us that the software will be ready? You just said it could be ready in the next 2 years, but that it will be ready and fully operational, so that you're not coming back this time next year for a further exemption?
Well, my understanding is that, as I said, the affected group is a diminishing number. That the software changes, we're awaiting changes in legislation and also government actuary advice. That is now in place or in the process of being delivered, and there's no anticipated delay in that work to know that this might occur in a future year. We're confident, and to the extent that we can be, that it won't be necessary to apply amending regulations for any future years in the scheme, because we'll have caught up with the events that were put in train back in date of the McCloud judgment in 2018. Will have been achieved. The schemes will be compliant with the requirements of the outcome of that McCloud remedy judgment.
That's important, because a lot of people have been waiting since 2018 to have this resolved. So I'm going to take you at your word that the software will be up and running, and you'll not be back this time next year for another exemption. All right?
I'll be hearing from you if they do, more. I'll be hearing from you if they do.
Yep, you will.
Okay. Okay, so thank you for briefing committee and for taking committee questions in this matter, and we'll take a look if there's anything to follow up and come back to it, but thank you for now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, members, any follow-up action that members wish to indicate? Are members content that the department proceed to make the rule? Yeah, content. Thank you, members. Okay, members, moving on to agenda item 9, SR 2026/88, the Universal Credit, Personal Independence Payment, Job Seekers Allowance and Employment and Support Allowance, in brackets Decisions and Appeal, in brackets Amendment, Regulations NI 2026. A copy of the SR is contained at page 113. And if I could remind members, the committee considered the SL1 at our meeting on the 7th of May 26, in line with the new process for scrutiny of delegated legislation. Following consideration of the proposal, this committee confirmed it was content for the department to proceed to make the rule. The Examiner of Statutory Rules report in relation to this rule can be found at page 116. Do members have any objections to the rule? No. Thank you, members. Can I therefore formally put the question that the Committee for Communities has considered SR 2026/88, the Universal Credit, Personal Independence Payment, Job Seekers Allowance and Employment and Support Allowance, Decisions and Appeals Amendment Regulations NI 2026, and has no objection to the rule. Are members agreed? Agreed. Great. Thank you, members. Moving on to agenda item 10, matters arising. Members have been provided with a summary table of matters arising at page 125. We've only a few responses to consider this week, so I'll go through those individually, and we're going from 10.2 to 10.5. Members, item 10.2 is a response from Ulster Supported Employment Limited, following our request for its view on the positive and negative aspects of the employment support scheme following our briefing from the department officials on 30th of April 2026. Do members have any comments or views they'd like to raise? Content? Members content with that? Thank you. As noted, the remaining items are all draft nil return responses to other statutory committees in relation to their request for views on the following bills. 10.3 is Marriage and Civil Partnership Bill. 10.4 is Petroleum Exploration and Licensing Repeal Bill. And 10.5 is Utility Regulator Support for Decarbonisation Preparation Bill. So do members have any comments or views they'd like to raise, or are members content the draft nil return responses are sent to each of the relevant committees? Any comments or views? Members content? Yeah, thank you. Agenda item 11 then is correspondence, and unlike for matters arising in terms of the items of correspondence, I'll go through this list in bundles and only draw attention to certain items. I would ask, if you wish to draw out or highlight any specific item of correspondence, please use the reference in the memo, which is at page 146 of your pack. So the first bundle I'm going to deal with is 11.2 to 11.7. The first item in that bundle that I want to draw out is an invitation to the Sustainable Energy Communities NI Conference, taking place on the 8th of June from 9 AM to 1 PM in the Long Gallery here in PB. Members should respond individually if they wish to attend. And item 11.6 is correspondence from the clerk to the TEO committee confirming their agreement of the retention and disposal schedule, which we also agreed last week. After this correspondence was emailed to members, so it's really just included in this week's pack for completeness. So just to explain that on 11.6. So do members have any other items within 11.2 to 11.7 that they wish to raise or comment on? Otherwise content with the memo as is provided to members in the memo in the correspondence. Moving on then, members are content, yeah. Moving on to 11.8 to 11.13. The first one I want to draw out is 11.9 is a memo from the clerk to the Committee for Finance regarding guidance to departments in absence of a budget. However, I am concerned regarding information detailed at paragraph 17 of the Permanent Secretary's guidance and it's on page 175 of the pack. The paragraph states that whilst the most obvious of these is that the sums are limited to 95% of the amount authorised in the Budget Act, it must be noted that this is at a total level and therefore includes AMI, so that's annual managed expenditure spending for areas such as benefits and pensions. It is inconceivable that benefit pension spending will be restricted in any way. This may further reduce the amount that can be authorised for DEL spending. So members, I will propose that we write to the department just to clarify what his view is re AMI spending and what their plans are in relation to this 95% guidance letter. Would members be go ahead, Mark?
It's just on the same item, Chair. I'd certainly second your proposal that you were halfway through making before I interrupted you, but I'd also have some other question that we should be seeking answers to or clarity on from the department. So like, what contingency planning is being done by the department in the absence of a budget? What projects could be stalled or slowed down or already as a consequence of us not having a budget? And what has been communicated to arm's length bodies and our partners in the community and voluntary sector?
Yeah, members content with those additions to my proposal. And Sian?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think this is just latest evidence on the damage that is being inflicted by the failure to set a budget around the table. This is really worrying, particularly when exactly that point I was going to make around the paragraph 17, that this department has further pressure when it comes to its DEL spending. And so to add to, and I would absolutely support your proposal and the questions asked by Mark as well. But I suppose I would like to get a bit of clarity whether, I suppose, the accounting officer has already given any information or guidance to the minister around ministerial direction that may be required if a budget isn't set. I think that will be really useful to know. And also then the £19.2 million that the executive committed to the oil price support, is that fully additional to DFC, or is any DFC activity being reduced to help fund that pro rata reduction? And then finally, just whether the department can give us a bit of a breakdown on any of the programmes that are going to be protected within that envelope, which are at risk of delay, of reduction or pause. I think would just be really useful to get that clarity now before we find out in the press or it happens quicker than we can react, if possible.
Yeah, members content, and can I just point out to members that we are taking a finance briefing on the 18th of June, so I think it would be useful to have this information in advance of that session, that you can inform our question at that juncture, given the concerns. Members content with that, and I want to check with the clerk, are you content with the detail? Yeah. Okay, members, 11.13 is correspondence from an individual regarding overpayment of employment support allowance. Can I ask if members are content that the usual committee approach is taken, responding to the individual stating that the committee cannot get involved in individual cases and to contact their local MLA or MP? Members content? Yeah. Do members wish to draw out anything else, 11.8 to 11.13? No, content as per the memo. Thank you, members. Okay, members, you've also been provided with a tabled correspondence memo at page 3 of your table.
Sorry,
pack.
Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Sian.
It was just around the 1.12, the MTAC mobility statement. I am just wondering if there's any way we can write to the Minister and just ask how DFC is engaging with the UK level mobility changes and what assessment has been made so far of how those changes and impacts will be felt here on disabled people. I've had a few queries around the admin charge to cross the border. I've written to the Minister already, but I think it would be really useful for the committee to get a wee bit of further clarity on that. I think that particularly in border counties where someone who has a mobility car could be crossing the border on a daily, regular basis, to have to pay an admin charge just to be able to do that, I think is really unfair, and it's a very different situation than the UK mobility scheme. So I'm wondering whether we can get a wee bit more clarity on where the department is sitting with that and their engagement with the UK government.
Yeah, and if members are content with that, I fully agree. I've raised this before, have had it raised as well. We have sought, and we're in the process of seeking a briefing from Motability themselves in relation to the changes, but I think it's also useful to hear from the departments. My understanding, but it has been a very much a changing picture, which is part of the concern. My understanding is that initial proposal was around a £10 fee every time you cross the border potentially. I think that has been reduced to an annual £10 fee. It's still an additional barrier, but it's very unclear where these have all finished up. There's been various press reports, so I think clarity is important. I think there is a very specific impact here. I fully agree with that. And hopefully we'll get a briefing session from Motability, but I think the information from the department and their engagement is crucial as well, because I think, and not only just the department seeking information, but the department making the representations around the unique and individual differences that will apply here. So are members content with that? Yep. Okay, thank you, members. Then moving on to that tabled bundle, those are 11.15 to 11.18. There's nothing in particular I want to draw out there. Is there anything within that group that members wish to flag up? Morris?
Yeah, 11.15, just to say that I welcome the initiative to highlight the important ties between ourselves here in Northern Ireland and the USA, and share our own heritage and our own culture. We talked about culture there a while ago, and it's great to get the culture of this place out to a wider audience, and who knows where it can lead, maybe to some sort of economic benefit later on down the road. So I would welcome that.
Yeah, thank you, Morris.
Yeah, Chair, same for me, Chair, and also on 11.16. Very much welcome the introduction of the Veterans Support Line. It's going to provide very much needed single point of contact in terms of offering advice and support for veterans, not just veterans but for their families as well. So I think it's a positive practical step forward to ensuring those that have served are better supported and they're not disadvantaged when they're accessing services. So just to put on record, I very much welcome that.
Yeah, thank you. And just in relation to Morris, just to point out, Morris, next week's Armagh meeting will actually have a particular focus around that, some of those linkages, so that might be an extra spur to you.
I intend to go.
Yeah. Sian, were you looking in there? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's just on 11.17, the Commission on Work and Wellbeing. Really welcome this. Any time that we see departments working together, especially departments that have different, different elements of an overall issue, I think it's brilliant and it has to be welcomed. I'm just wondering if there's any way we can get a wee bit of further information from our department around that 16 million award. £1 million award from the Northern Ireland Public Sector Transformation Fund. So I know that obviously Department for Health, Department for Economy and ourselves, our Department for Communities, are involved, but I'm just wondering if there's a wee bit more information we can get around how that's going to be split between the departments themselves and the Commission, and just a bit more information about what the plans are and the timelines are for that Commission would be really, really useful.
Yep, thank you. You content
Yes,
with
I'm
that?
content,
Members
thank
content
you.
with that?
Yeah, just on that, just to back what Sian said there, I think it's very welcome piece of work. It's good to see that cross-departmental work happening in such a valuable area, so fully back that call.
Yeah. Just in relation to 11.16 on that dedicated phone line, so committee have submitted as of the end of March a detailed list of questions around that, and I just want to check with the clerk if we received a response to that correspondence yet?
Not yet.
Okay, I'd also like to add that. I'd like that to be followed up on for a response, and also add as to the cost of this particular.
I think we did ask that.
That's part of the letter.
I'll double
Okay.
check. Yeah.
Okay, that's members content with that? Yep, thank you. Okay, members, that concludes correspondence for today, and thank you, members, for your contribution on that. Moving to agenda item 12, forward work programme, a copy of which is at page 200. Do members have any comments in relation to the forward work programme? No. Members, a draft agenda for our formal meeting next week on the 4th of June is at page 41 of the table papers for members' consideration and agreement. Do members have any comments, or are members content to agree the agenda? Content, yeah. Thank you. Okay, members, moving to agenda item 13, any other business. Do members have any other business they wish to raise? No. And therefore, agenda item 14 is date, time and location of the next meeting. And members, our next meeting will be at 10 a.m. on Thursday, 4th of June in Cardinal Tomas O'Fia Library and Archive in Armagh. Thank you, members. Good luck in the meantime, and can I ask the clerk to take us out of broadcasting, please? The meeting is now adjourned.
Committee Room 29, Sound. 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 Committee Room 29, Sound.